Hi there, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to do a vintage Faire-isle knit, and we'll discover to see how it works. Today we are working on a Knitmaster Mod 100. Here is the actual pattern, and I just thought I could give it a go. It looks a little bit more difficult, so we'll try it. I thought I'd try this Faire-isle knit because it basically looked a little bit more complicated, and I thought it'd be a little bit of a challenge to try this Faire-isle knit and see how it works. Here I am changing the levers to Faire-isle so we can work in the Faire-isle knit. Here I forgot to actually work in the yarn. Whenever you do Faire-isle, make sure that the last needles on the other side work in the stitches. Here I am just changing the yarn so I can continue with the next color. This pattern is really interesting. What I wanted to do was do this pattern because it looked a little bit more complicated. It actually is 8 rows of knitting, and it works out to be about 36 rows that you're actually doing for the knitting. I thought I would do this pattern not only because it's a little bit more difficult, but I just wanted to see how all the rows would work together and see how the pattern works. I did find it initially a little bit more difficult. I had to do 2 samples. I had to do a separate sample for the video, and I had to do a sample for just to practice to see how the knitting went. I'll probably be showing you the first bit of knitting so I can show you all the mistakes that were done in the knitting. Overall, this pattern was really interesting and I really liked it a lot, but I don't think I'm really going to use it. It actually is a lot of work, and you know, I prefer stuff that's a little bit more simple. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the yarns for this machine. I did find that some of the double knit yarns didn't work and some did. I also found that with some of the brands, one yarn did work whereas another yarn didn't. So I don't actually know why. Probably maybe because it was dyed differently, or maybe it was blended differently. So some yarns you just got to test to make sure that they work well for you. I would say don't invest in a lot of yarns. Just get yarns just to test and just see which one works. With this pattern, I'm not going to go into direct detail of every aspect or every motion of it. Basically what I've done is every stitch has been included, and that's why this video is a little bit longer. It's longer because I just wanted to show you all the steps that are needed for the pattern, and just to show you how much time it takes to do it. Also wanted to show is that I also worked on either side of the actual pattern. That means I had a yarn on the left and the yarn on the right, and basically that made it easier to work with this pattern. With some of the patterns you can actually just work from one side, so you do your double row from left to right, and then you do left to right again with the second color. But with this one you need a yarn on the other side, so you can flip the yarns over, and you basically do some of the stitches that you need to do have to be done twice, and some of the stitches you do only need to be done once. It's just depending on which side the yarn is, and that's the yarn that you work with in order to make the pattern. With the yarn, if you are working the two yarns on either side, you will find that you can count better as well. What I found was when the yarn is on the left and the right, when you go from left to right, then you have two yarns on the other side which you swap over, and then you put the new yarn, the other color in, and you knit it to the other side. So even when the yarns are crossed over, it means you've done a row. So when you are doing your count, it makes it a little bit easier to identify the stitches you have to do. Basically where I am now is from rows 4 to 7. It's actually similar rows to each other, and you just have to repeat yourself. This is where I made a number of mistakes. I made a mistake where I just forgot one of the rows, and just was short of a row on the patterning. It wasn't that I got it wrong, it's just I didn't include a row. Here I am changing a yarn so I can go on to the next row, and this will complete one row of knitting. You're probably wondering why would I actually work with this machine. One of the plus points about this machine is it can do a double knit, and that's really what I'm interested in. The other reason is I just find it kind of fun. I really like the very simple machines, and to see if it's possible to do more complicated work. This was really quite complicated to do this actual pattern, and but I found it fun, and it was enjoyable to try this. I also wanted to see how far I could take this machine, see what projects I can do with it, and that's basically what I'll be doing. It's not as fancy as some of the other machines, like you know, the punch card machines. They're much more sophisticated, and you can do a lot more with them, and this one takes quite a while in order just to do a Faire-isle. But overall it's kind of fun, and if you kind of want to do this like a hobby or something, this can be a fun machine you can do and you can use. And it's you know, it's just a case of you know, whether you want to do it or not. And you know, the whole purpose of the machine is just to have fun and just to enjoy what it can do. When I found this machine, there was very little information about it. I didn't find any kind of place I could find or review or anything on this machine. So I thought it was really interesting when I found it. I did find out that there were there are three of them. This is the Knitmaster Mod 100, and then there's the Knitmaster Mod 150, and then you get a Knitmaster 250. And the Knitmaster 250 actually has a carriage which actually helps you to do the Faire-isle knitting. With this machine, it came with what is called a needle selector. The needle selector only works from left to right, and that's how it works. But it's actually easy to put it on and to take it off. It's not actually like the actual carriage, which is kind of fixed, and to keep it more firm and to hold it onto the actual needle bed. So it's more movable, but you just got to be careful when you take it off that you don't put it too hard on the table, because it's actually it's got a front piece that just sticks out a little bit, so you don't want to get it to be bent. So you must just be careful how you take the needle selector off and place it on the table. What I found was with this needle selector, it actually came with the Knitmaster Mod 100 or the Knitmaster Mod 150, and there seems to be a difference between the needle selector for the Knitmaster 250. So I don't know quite what the differences are, but I just know that there is a difference between the two. I haven't actually seen a needle selector for the 250, so I wouldn't actually know until I see it. I just want to mention that the needle selector does have limitations to what it can do. It tends to work on about 12 needles of pattern knitting at a very basic level, but it is fun. And you know what, if you can experiment with 12 stitches, you probably could create your own pattern, and it'd probably be very easy to do, and you didn't have to do a lot of designing to do so. It's not like the punch card machines that work on about 24 stitches. I think the what you call the Brothers 710 works on 8 stitches or 14 stitches, I'm not quite sure. And so it's just a case of learning how to work with 12 stitches. Possibly the other way you can do the Faire-isle patterning is basically if you work it from a chart. That means you select the needles by hand and that you work your pattern that way. I haven't really tried that on this machine to actually work from a graph, but it might be easy to do. I don't really know. I will experiment later on with this machine to see if I can actually find a pattern and then recreate it, and just to see what it looks like. It might be quite easy, and it actually might be easier than doing it from this booklet that I found with all the Faire-isle patterning. And you know, it's just a case of trial and error to see how it works. What I haven't tried on this machine yet is doing lace work. I'll be doing that later. I wanted to just try and do some other work first, just to cover this part of the aspect of the machine so that you could just see where it goes. This will probably be my last video on this booklet. I just wanted to cover it so that it's done, and so anybody who wants to try this, even with the other machines like besides the 100, the 150 and the 250, if you got a needle selector, you can just see how it works. I do find that some of the simple patterns are just great. You know, if you've got really great colors, you can make something really interesting. I did find it difficult to do cables. It seemed a little bit bulky on the needles, but I will experiment with that a bit more, and just to see if I can improve on that, and so that I can make a garment somewhere along the line. Um, I did find one interesting thing. I found moving the carriage from left to right much easier than it was from right to left. For some reason, I had to watch from right to left a little bit more closely. I did find that some of the stitches would work itself in, and I wasn't too sure what was going on there. I think it's possible that you just got to watch your latches on the needles to make sure that they're open or closed in the position they need to be, and you just have to just keep an eye out on that. Sometimes it's better just to redo a row if the patterning's not working, just so that you can get it right. Basically here I'm working on the rows from 12 to 16. These rows are repeated. They're basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows that you do on a kind of a repeat, and this creates the shaping. I did make a few mistakes which I had to rectify, and just redo those rows. With the Knitmaster 250, basically what happens is that when you do your patterning, you actually got two parts of the patterning. You got the yarn that's in the actual tension unit, and then you got a yarn that you put over the needles, and then you switch a lever or on the carriage, which actually allows for the actual second yarn to be knitted in. So it works differently from the Knitmaster 100. The Knitmaster 100, you actually have to do 2 rows on 1 row. And basically that means you've got to work 2 colors as 2 separate rows. And with the Knitmaster 250, it makes it much easier to work with. I will be looking around to see if I can ever find a Knitmaster 250. and just to see how that works. I might just get the carriage. If I come across a carriage even, I might just get hold of that and see if I can use it on the same bed. From what I can see, the 100 and the 150 and the 250 have the same needle bed. So it'll be interesting to see how that works if I do actually get a carriage. As I was working with this pattern, I did notice that I had to watch the tension a little bit. I'm actually using the yarns by hand. I'm not actually using the tension unit that came with the machine. I found that the tension unit was a little bit too tight on the actual yarn, and it was better just to move it by hand. And because I was changing the yarns a lot frequently, it made it also a little bit easier just to hold it by hand. The other thing about this pattern in particular, it was actually pulling inwards a little bit. I tried very hard to do a very low tension, as low as I could by just holding it, but it still actually pulled in a little bit. So I need to figure out how I can improve that a little bit, so I can do maybe more complicated patterns. The other thing I wanted to do with this machine is to do basically simple knitting. When I say simple knitting, I mean knitting that I've seen in the shops. I often go to shops a lot just to see what they've got and see what kind of designs they have. But I find knitwear that they actually sell on the in the actual, with the high brains especially, it's not that complicated. You know, to actually take one of those knits and just to make a pattern from it wouldn't be that difficult. And the only thing I find with mass produced knitwear is it's really, what's important is color. They use a lot of colors specific for the trend, and that's really how I find knitwear works for me. So if you do use a machine like this, keep it simple and have a look around in the shops and even thrift stores or charity shops, and you'll find knitwear there that could possibly be used as a pattern. It's just a case of measuring. The best way to learn knitting is to actually do shaping. If you understand shaping and sizing well, that will actually make your knits much better, and it will actually be much easier for you to learn knitting. Um, on YouTube, I often look at the fashion shows and knitwear design that I do come across. And with the fashion shows, I follow the main fashion shows a lot more. And when you look at these fashion shows, you can actually have a look and see what's on trend, but you can also have a look at color. I've mentioned color, and what I would say is just have a look at the colors to see what's in. I do find that you can find a lot of yarns that could actually be used for the color trends. One of the colors I found for the winter season would be like burnt orange, or what they call an electric blue or a royal blue, and those are two colors that I came across a lot. The other colors that I've come across that seem to be very basic is like charcoal or grey. Beige is another color that I see a lot of, and it's just a case of looking for these colors. But the other colors you can find is probably in paint shop. They've got these color cards. You can probably find colors there, and you could probably relate them to actually yarn that you will find online. I find it is really easy, I should say, or easier to actually find a color for the current trends. So it's just a case of looking for it and just to find the colors that you want. Yeah, the other thing is that you know, if you're looking for something really specific in a color, you can often find the yarn that you want. It's very difficult, more difficult I should say, for domestic sewers, because if a specific color is in trend or in demand or what have you, I do find to actually find that fabric in that color is really tricky. So, but with yarn you can actually do it much easier. So I would say just have a look around and see what possibilities you can do. Well, this is the kind of the end of the knitting. As you can see, I showed 36 rows. This is the sample, but this is actually the first sample. It's not the second sample. Um, I had difficulty in actually working this pattern. As you can see, some of it didn't come out so good. When I started it out, it just wasn't working. I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, but it got a bit better as I went along. I don't think I'll be using this pattern. As I've said, it's all right, but it's not my favorite. That's what it looks like at the back, and it's really quite thick. I found the fabric quite thick. I'm not sure what kind of pattern I'm going to do next. I'm probably going to do lace work next on this machine, just to see how this goes. I do hope you enjoyed this video and some of the explanations I have for it. It's just a fun video that I wanted to do, and just to create this pattern. I would just like to say please subscribe and leave a comment, and just tell me what you think. All right, so I'm going away now, so thank you very much. All the best.